loves, and welcome back once again. I'm just jumping right in and applying my new e.l.f. Putty Primer and immediately jumping into my brows. So of course I'm using my Benefit Brow Pomade in the shade 4 and using my Anastasia Beverly Hills Dual-Ended Eyebrow Brush. This is either number 12 or number 18. I'm not too sure. I've actually had this brush for a while, and from using it so much, the name actually rubbed off. So now we're going in and defining the brows with some concealer, and in my case I'm using my Infallible Concealer / Foundation and a simple e.l.f. brush to get a more defined look, and of course defining both the tops and the bottoms of the brows and making sure I get a nice slick and pointed eyebrow tail. And now for foundation, I will be using my NARS and Too Faced together, of course, and blending that all in with a Real Technique sponge. And now for contouring, I use the ABH Cream Contour in the shade Light and applying that to the following areas I want to define, such as, my forehead, cheeks, my nose, of course. And I also apply some to my jawline. And now using the slanted flat side of my Real Technique sponge, I'm blending that all out. And then I'm going to go back in with the brush I used to spread my foundation to get a more structured cheek contour. And of course going back in and blending it back out. Right here I'm just using a small sponge to blend out the rest of my nose contour that I couldn't reach with the Real Technique sponge. And then going back in with my concealer, of course, and blending all of that out, making sure nothing is too harsh. And I'm also pushing up that concealer into my nose contour. Now for my eyes, I'm using Morphe's eyelid primer, and after I set that real quick and spread it out all over my eyelids, I will immediately set my eyelids and my whole face with Airspun's translucent powder. And I'm using that same brush, using my Real Techniques Beauty Blender just to set my eyelids real quick from creasing. Now that my face is being set with powder, I go ahead and jump back into my brows in the meantime, and I'm just making sure I'm blending everything out to get that gradient effect. Here for eyeshadow, I'm using my ABH Subculture and my Sweetie 24 Artist Pass to create this look. I went in with Destiny in the crease and Axis on the outer corner and blended those together, and those are obviously both from the Subculture palette. I wanted to make sure that the blue color named Axis was really getting into that green Destiny color to get it all blended out. And again, I'm just always making sure it looks good in both views of the palette mirror and my ring light mirror. Just adding a little bit of more axes. Just dusting off excess powder from the eyeshadow that might have fallen onto under my eyes. And of course, defining the edges of my eyeshadow. You can never blend too much of your eyeshadow. You always want to make sure it's not too harsh or there's not too many harsh lines. Practice always makes perfect. Then I used my Milani concealer to cut my crease. And I'm just going back in with that same e.l.f. brush that I used to define my eyebrows. And I'm setting that down with a smaller sponge real quick. And I'm just using whatever powder that was on this sponge to set it down. Using the color Desert Vibes from the 24A palette, I then patted that down right onto the concealer, ensuring I cover every single part of my crease that I created. And into my outer corners, I added Rider Sky into that same 24A palette, blending that in as well. And again, dusting off any extra powder. Again, redefining the corners of the eyeshadow to get a more straight edge look. Alright, and my favorite part, for lashes, I used a pair I received in my Lash Box subscription, of course, called Lashy Box, and I will link that down below as always. Of course, I always apply with pluckers to get it closer to my lash line. That's just something I got more comfortable with. While those dry up, I'm setting my brows with some brow gel and then going back to my face with my NYX foundation powder and a flat kabuki brush. I'm also setting and dusting off whatever excess powder I had on my face previously. For bronzer, I used Maybelline City Bronzer and just slightly going over the areas I contoured. For a highlight, I'm using my ABH Moonchild Highlight Palette, and before that, I go ahead and set my face with Sweetie's Setting Mist to bring out the highlight just a little more. I'm just grabbing a smaller brush to highlight the bridge of my nose and the tip of my nose. Just a little more won't hurt. And I think I'm all set. So now to set my entire face, I'm using my Max Fix Plus Coconut Setting Spray that I just received in the mail. I really liked the way this smelled. It wasn't too strong of a coconutty smell. Alright, cleaning off my nose piercings real quick that are full of foundation and powders, and making sure my face is dry. Alright, and here y'all have it, the finished look. Y'all know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and I'll see y'all next time.